You and I sat down with a mutual friend, Mark Yaconelli, once, and I don't know if you remember that. We were out in Vancouver, and I think we had a meal in a pub.
It was the Blue Moose in Vancouver.
And
you remember he was like, "Look at you Nazarenes going into a bar. None of you are going to drink."
And he kind of talked a lot about this idea of being attentive to where God is at work in people's lives. And he engaged, I don't know if you remember this, in a conversation just asking our server about, what she thought about the church and God and faith. And she gave her story, right? She said, when I was younger, I used to go, but I've kind of lost because it did. I remember the conversation very well, just because it's such an unusual thing to do, to kind of have those conversations. And, and I think one of his opening questions actually was, do you pray? And she kind of goes, do you remember that? Do you remember that? And she goes,
I don't. I'm so glad you reminded me.
Yeah. And she kind of goes, yeah, sometimes. And he goes, are you religious? And she goes, not really. And it was just a fascinating conversation. Here's a person that doesn't consider herself to be religious, hasn't been into church in many years, only has a childhood memory of being taken to, I think it was even the Catholic Church, but felt that it was irrelevant, and so hasn't had anything. But when experiencing hardships in life, does still pray. And I think when I think about that, I think to myself that what does missionary activity look like? Mm-hmm. Is it the posture of helping people to discern the God that is already at work within their life, working towards their redemption and reconciliation with Him and others? Is it more questions that opens up the discovery of God in the culture and in the people's lives? And I know it's very easy for me to kind of say these things. Oh, it sounds good. That's the way we approach it. But I mean, it's harder to practice in reality, and it's harder to do well in a culture that, one, here is very suspicious of the church. And certainly recently with some churches defying government orders around safe gatherings. And we had one church here recently that the government eventually put a fence around. It arrested its pastor because they continued to meet without masks and without social distancing. So he was in prison for a month. And I can say a lot about this because it becomes sensationalized. But for those of us close enough to this, we just kind of go, you're not really a martyr for Jesus. You're just refusing to love your neighbors well, and using your faith as a platform to civil disobedience. And but that's it. That doesn't help the Christian message in this culture.
Yeah.
That doesn't help people to trust that the church's agenda is life and hope. And so when I say this, I think the missionary understanding is pivotal. It's pivotal.